Hey, it's Zane here with you, and thank you for joining me today. In this video, I want to talk about one of the greatest problems that is coming down the pike right now that we're all going to be faced with, but we have a choice as to whether or not we're going to be on the right side or the wrong side of the ledger. Now, specifically, I'm talking about hyperinflation. And from all of the research that I'm currently doing and the experts that I'm listening to who have a tremendous pedigree in this space, have been around a long, long time, have seen many, many different economic cycles, are very aware of the geopolitical landscape that we're in right now, and also the evolution of the financial system and the history of money and the impact that that is having on where we are now in this overall life cycle, and how it is that, if we make the right decisions moving forward and we're aware of the changing environment that we're in, we're going to give ourselves the best chance of not only surviving this upcoming hyperinflationary situation that is looming, but hopefully thriving as well. And so really my goal in this video today is just to give you, I guess, the fuel to want to go out there and just do a little bit of homework for yourself, to develop your own convictions, to get a little bit of self-education going on, to get armed with some knowledge. Because with that, I'm sure that you will begin to realize that A, there's a problem, and that B, there are solutions if you're proactive about it now. There's really, I believe, a window of opportunity now, a calm before the storm, so to speak, that if we're very consciously dialed into what's going and we're forward thinking and we're proactive, we can do a lot now to protect and preserve what we have, and also to put ourselves in a good position to, I guess, benefit from this coming situation. So I want to quickly recap on a video I did a couple of weeks ago, which I got a lot of great feedback from, and I just explained in simple terms the true meaning of inflation. And really it wasn't my explanation, it was more elaborating on a definition that was provided by a very prominent economist from the 50s, 60s and 70s. His name was Milton Friedman. A real genius. He won a Nobel Peace Prize. But his definition of inflation that you won't hear on the mainstream news or from your government or treasurer is that inflation is taxation without legislation. So in other words, it's a way of stealing from the people when you increase the money supply without them really knowing it, without there being any real rules, checks and balances, laws in place, without consulting or having a referendum or a vote. When the government has no checks and balances on how they're able to issue currency and they pump it into the system, it means that the purchasing power that the average citizen has becomes worth less and less and less. And the great Michael Saylor, who I believe is one of the true geniuses of our time, you can look him up on YouTube. He's probably the most prominent figure in Bitcoin right now, but he understands a lot about history, and whether or not you believe in Bitcoin or where it's going and the future of money, if that's a topic that's of interest to you or not, you could certainly do yourself a huge service by tuning into some of the interviews with Michael Saylor, who really puts into perspective where we are now in the history of money and how we've ended up in the situation that we're in, and how we're not told the truth about the true meaning of inflation. And he often says that, the road to serfdom, otherwise known as peasantry, is defined as working exponentially harder for a currency that is growing exponentially weaker. And so basically what that means is that we have people out there in society right now who are giving their honest labor and output and intellectual knowledge for income, for revenue, for a currency that is being issued to them in return for that output that is actually getting weaker and weaker and weaker by the day. And so unless you and I are paying attention to this phenomenon, to this situation, and we're doing things that will protect and preserve this income that we're earning, then basically we're getting left behind. We're getting caught behind the eight ball. Our savings are becoming diluted, depleted, and it's going to be very, very difficult for us to stay ahead of the game, for us to, I guess, get in front of this thing that we call inflation, these out of control price increases, which we can't seem to keep up with if we're still earning this currency that is being depleted and worth less and less and less as time goes on. So your only choice is to either earn more money, which is easier said than done for most people because there's only so many hours in the work week, and if you already have a full-time job and you're on a fixed income, it's not as simple as, well, I'm just going to go and get another job, work another 10, 20 hours per week to earn a little extra income so I can stay ahead of the game. Now, in that explanation of itself, what you notice is that it's not just that our income value is being eroded, but our time is being eroded as well. Because if you need to go and all of a sudden have to work 50 hours a week instead of 38 hours per week just to keep up with a lifestyle that, prior to 2020 you were able to maintain on 38 hours a week, then all of a sudden what you realize is that this system is also stealing from you in terms of your time and your energy and your general lifestyle and livelihood. So the more we begin to think of money, not just in terms of this paper currency or what we have in our bank account, but in terms of output and energy and time, the more we begin to realize that the system is broken and the system is actually stealing from us. Now, obviously, there are certain people in society right now who have benefited greatly from this period of monetary expansion and inflation, and that is typically people who own assets. So people who own real estate, properties, people who have been in equities, in the stock market, people who have been in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. These are factions of society or asset classes. People who own those asset classes benefit greatly when there are periods of high liquidity and monetary expansion injected into the economy. And so obviously the name of the game is, if you want to win in this changing environment, is to make sure that you own some of these assets so that you can keep up with the hurdle rate, which is what you need to stay ahead of the game when it comes to inflation. And so this is what we have right now. We have a faction of society who own assets and they're benefiting greatly from this monetary expansion situation. Then we have a whole other huge element of society who don't own a home, or they're not in the stock market, or they're not in Bitcoin, or they don't have gold and silver to protect their purchasing power. And these people are just trying to make ends meet, and they're finding it harder and harder and harder to keep up. And so for me, the first step, if you want to educate yourself more, which will help develop your conviction, which will in turn hopefully have you take some form of action that is right for you and where you're at and where you can allocate whatever resources you have to protect your wealth, your purchasing power moving forward. The first step would be, like I said, to do a little bit of research for yourself. Now, there's a video on YouTube that I highly encourage you to watch. And it's by Lynn Alden, Alden. It's about a 30-minute watch, highly recommended. The name of the video is, I wrote it down, How Money and Banking Work and Why They're Broken Today. How Money and Banking Work and Why They're Broken Today. If you put that into YouTube, you'll see the video come up. Like I said, it's by Lynn Alden and it's about a 30-minute watch, but it will give you a really good, concise perspective about the monetary system, how it is that it's evolved, how it is that we've ended up in this situation. And, if you work for a living or you have a business and you're earning income and you're trying to make smart investment decisions moving forward so that you can protect your purchasing power, your wealth, look forward to a comfortable retirement, you really need to start educating yourself about money, because there are solutions out there that will help you to really put yourself in a strong position moving forward. If you do nothing, then the reality is that your purchasing power is going to continue to decline at an increasing rate as we enter further monetary expansion and hyperinflation. So in this environment, it's not just the price of goods going up. Because of the housing crisis that's going on, we're seeing more and more people that are now becoming homeless. That can lead to social unrest. We've got people becoming more desperate in society, which can lead to safety issues. We're seeing more and more theft out there these days. And this is what happens when the breakdown of society starts to happen, because the monetary system is starting to crack. And so for these reasons, I really encourage you to start doing whatever research you can, even if you allocate 10, 20 minutes per day and you do that 3-4 days a week, you'll certainly be ahead of 98% of people out there who are just, blindly going through life, totally unaware and oblivious to the state of the financial system, where we are, what's going on geopolitically, how it's all tied in, and how there are dramatic changes coming. So I don't really want to get into the Great Reset and digital currency, CBDCs, UBI, Universal Basic Income. That is a whole other topic and conversation which I could speak for hours about. I've done a lot of research on that. But really that's the main game that we're entering towards. And a lot of people are going to be caught up in what's known as Universal Basic Income, digital central bank digital currencies, which is surveillance money. And they'll be able to basically switch off and on your purchasing, your ability to purchase certain things based on your behaviors, based on certain things that they mandate that you say yes or no to, based on your carbon credits, whether or not you use gas or electric, all of those kinds of things. And that, like I said, that's a whole other conversation, but that's another area that is coming down the pike that we just need to have in the back of our mind as to why we need to educate ourselves about maintaining our personal sovereignty and our personal freedom and purchasing power as well. So there are 7 things that I believe that you and I and everybody that we know who cares about their future should be doing right now in this environment. And the first thing is to get prepared. And by that I mean to not be complacent, to not just think that everything's going to be okay, that everything that is going on in the world right now is just going to blow over. There's not going to be any implications of it. For anybody who's even half conscious right now, they can see that the world has changed a lot in a very, very short space of time. And, that should be enough of a red flag for you to realize, well, let me do a little bit of homework. Let me do a little bit of education. Let me start to develop my own convictions so that I can start making the right decisions for myself and my family. And so that would be number 1. Don't be complacent and start thinking with a preparedness type mindset. Number 2 is to educate yourself about money. There are so many videos on YouTube about the history of money, which are just so revealing and informative, interesting, educational. And even if you don't really have an interest in finance per se, like I said, if you are working for an income, running a business, generating revenue, if you're reliant on money to survive, which is pretty much all of us, you really owe it to yourself in this changing world to learn a little about money. Why is it that when you go to work and you trade your your output, your energy, your intellectual knowledge, your labor, this stuff that you get in return, you should be learning about, because the value of it is becoming less and less and less with each passing day, month, year. And so if there's a way that you can protect that purchasing power and that energy, that financial energy that you're earning, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it? It would make logical sense to me to do that. So that would be number 2, educate yourself about money. Again, a great first place to start would be to watch that video by Lynn Alden on YouTube. It's about a 30-minute watch, and that alone will put you ahead of, like I said, 98% of the population. How money and banking work and why they are broken today. That's the name of the video for you to watch. Number 3, get out of debt. In particular, consumer debt, such as credit card debt, personal loans, those kinds of things that have exorbitant interest rates attached to them. A lot of people right now are living off credit cards, just to make ends meet, just to survive. And that's not a great place to be right now. You want to get out of as much debt as you possibly can. And, the more debt that you have, the more control that can be imposed upon you at any given moment. And so just to be aware of that and to do all that you can to eliminate as much debt as you possibly can. If you have a home loan and you've got the ability to sell down some assets to pay off more of that home loan, then that would be a really smart move as well in these times. We don't know what's going to happen to the banking system. There's a big school of thought out there that suggests that, if we have a repeat of 2008, where Bear Stearns was the first to go, and then a whole raft of other banking institutions followed suit very, very quickly, that can have fractures and ripple effects on the banking system worldwide. They can very easily institute what's known as capital controls, where they can freeze bank accounts. A lot of people don't realize that their money in the bank is actually a liability to the banking institution. So if something happens to the bank, there's no personal guarantee that you're going to be able to access your money. You are basically simply on the books as a liability to the bank, but that doesn't necessarily mean that in a time of crisis you're going to be able to access your money. So just be aware of that. So number 4 would be to get your mind and body in good shape. And there's a lot of people out there who are carrying way too much weight, who are suffering from mental health problems, emotional imbalances, diabetes, all sorts of different chronic health conditions. So now's the time to get yourself in a really positive and strong state of mind, and also your body, because when the world's changing at a very fast rate, it's so important for you to be in a frame of mind and in a physical capability that you've got the energy to be able to pivot and do things that are needed. You may need to change your situation. You may need to change your environment. You may need to change where you live. You may need to do all that at short notice. Again, not to be conspiratorial or alarmist about the potential for what's coming, but definitely a prudent thing for you to be the best version of you by taking the best care of you that you possibly can be doing right now. Number 5 would be to hold some cash outside the system that you can access in a safe place, but you wouldn't want to overdo it. And the reason I say that is because in an environment where they're trying to digitize everything and institute these CBDCs, that's the eventual goal. You want to have, in the short term, in case the banking system, there are threats to it, and bank accounts can't be accessed for a period of time, you want to have access to a certain amount of cash for the short term, just in case. So there would be setting aside a small amount of cash. When I say small, you be the judge of what works for you, but I would say, something that can keep you going for at least 2-3 weeks would be smart. But then apart from that, if you've got any spare savings that you can put into hard assets such as silver, coins, gold bullion, I mean physical gold, again, that you can either store in a vault or have handy and access, that would be a really smart thing to do also in this environment. And again, there's so much information online about gold and silver and why it's such an amazing store of value, particularly in times of geopolitical unrest that we're in now. And we're seeing, the price of those, those hard assets continuing to really increase quite dramatically in recent times. And I was just watching a video this morning that suggests that the price of silver, which is now sitting at around about $30 US an ounce, is tipped to hit about $50 by the end of this year, 2024. So keep an eye on that, but definitely in times of crisis to have some silver coins in your pocket, a very, very smart thing to be thinking about right now. Number 6 would be security. And this is one that is not spoken about enough, but it is so important to think about your personal situation and how secure it is. Because, like I said, in times of upheaval, in times of financial struggle, in times of financial stress, when people are struggling to make ends meet, when people are becoming homeless, when people are becoming more desperate, the thing that naturally follows from all of that is social unrest. And we need to keep our eye very closely on what's going on in America right now, because even though many of people who are in my audience are based in Australia, we know that when America sneezes, Australia catches a cold. And pretty much anything that's going on in America, there's a delayed reaction, and the same thing begins to happen in Australia. It could be the immigration policy, it could be interest rates, it could be banking, fractures in the banking system, different policies to do with health, like we've seen over the last few years. Whatever it might be, it pays for you to keep an eye on America, because that gives you a bit of a hint as to what's coming here. We know there's a lot going on in America politically. It's an election year. The nation is very much divided. There's a massive amount of homelessness and crime in America. Some of the greatest cities that I used to spend a lot of time in, such as San Francisco and New York. You talk to people who've been there recently and they'll tell you that, it's just nothing like what it was. So many businesses have now been vacated. There's just crime and homelessness everywhere. And that's a sign that the society is starting to break down. And when that happens, you need to be very mindful of your security, where you live, your situation, how secure it is, and also to work on your own personal skills. I'm not here to tell you to go and learn how to defend yourself, but that would be something that you should definitely try to find the time to learn some skills. Self-defense, I think, in this changing world that we're in, would definitely be a smart idea as well. And the 7th point would be to have a plan B, to be nimble and to have a plan B. Now, what I mean by that is your situation right now, if you can see that there's some potential challenges with it, if this situation starts getting worse, if we enter a stage of hyperinflation, if you're barely just getting by right now, if you can see there's signs that things aren't getting any better for you financially, you really need to take stock of where you're at and start thinking about a potential plan B. I mean, we're seeing a lot of people now who are basically looking at other countries to move to, where the cost of living is a lot less, where the crime is a lot less, where they can have less stress and more of a lifestyle. Obviously, people who are digital nomads, it's a lot easier for them to do that. Just pack up everything and go, particularly if they don't have a family. It's certainly not for everyone. But just to have be thinking about a worst case scenario, what a plan B might look like. Is there a family member who you can perhaps devise a plan B with, you're on the same page with? Is it to go and find a plot of land somewhere and with a couple of old homes on it or something like that? You can pool your resources, all sorts of different things that you can kind of conjure up if you get creative. But just think about the environment that we're in, and if worst case scenario happens, do you have a plan B that you can move towards? So I'm going to leave it there today, but I know there's a lot to take in there, and again, not to spook you in any way, but certainly to raise, I guess, just your level of consciousness, if you're not already, around what you can do to begin preparing yourself, educating yourself, and making moves in the right direction in this changing world. So I want to thank you for tuning in today. I hope you got some value from today's video. If you did, please give it a like. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment below, which definitely helps to get my videos noticed. And really my commitment is to keep sharing videos, my thoughts around all of this, and also how you can live a better life by taking better care of your physical state, your mental state, your relationships, and really it's all about doing all that we can to be prepared in a changing world. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.